Hello there, everybody. This is Brown. Gonna stream this trial today. See how this goes. See if we can get a few hours in on this. This is the extreme skier case. I haven't followed it a lot, but I've been getting there, so trying to keep up to date. I missed the first 3 days, but I've been watching offline, so hopefully I can stay up to date here and go from there. I'll try not to talk too much, so this way I'm not interrupting this. We got us a screen shaking.
What is your position in the department?
Currently, I'm a lieutenant. Criminal investigations or civil animal control, SROs, school resource officers, and hopefully soon chaplains.
Okay, and what was your assignment, sir, in 2020?
In 2020, at that time, I believe I was assigned to just patrol.
Okay, and are you a full-time sworn, salaried, and commissioned peace officer?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been with the Sandoval County Sheriff's Office?
Since 2016, so 8 years.
Okay, and prior to your time with the Sandoval County Sheriff's Department, where did you work previously? Have you worked in other law enforcement entities?
Yes. Previously, before coming to Sandoval County, I was with Corrales for about 8 or 10 years. Prior to that, I've worked for tribal agencies such as Sandia and Pueblo of Jemez. I originally got my New Mexico certification in 1997.
Yeah, but
Okay,
I'll be
so
right
how
back,
long
Chad. I gotta go
is your
take
total
the
time in law
cats and
enforcement?
clean the kitty litter and stuff. So give me a minute. I'll keep
27,
this going. I'll
26
just
years.
step
Okay.
away from it.
So as the you said you were a sergeant over field at the time in 2020.
No, I was a lieutenant over
The
patrol.
lieutenant over the field. What were your duties as the lieutenant?
At that time, I was basically just in charge of the patrol operations, supervising sergeants and patrol deputies, and everything that it handles on a day-to-day basis. During the time of this incident, I was the lieutenant over CID, I believe was out of town, and I was filling in and taking over his responsibilities as far as on-call.
Can you tell the jury what CID is?
Criminal Investigations Division.
Okay. So what kind of specialized training have you undergone, sir?
Currently, I have a command level certification through the state, which requires, I believe it's approximately 15 or 1,500 hours of advanced training in any different fields. Most of mine have been in investigations related, white collar, violent crime, sexual assaults, and so forth, crime scene processing.
Okay. Do you have another position that you also employ as well?
Up to a month ago, I was also employed by the Office of the Medical Investigator.
And what was your position there?
I'm a field deputy medical investigator.
And what do you do in that capacity, sir?
So at the time when I was working, I would respond to scenes, conduct a field investigation, which included examination of the body, photographing, working with law enforcement, conducting medical related interviews, basically gathering all the information that I could for the doctors down at the main office in case they needed to perform any autopsies and such forth.
Okay. So you would be conducting an investigation alongside law enforcement as well?
Yes. It's the system's designed to basically parallel law enforcement, and the theory is that if we both come to the basic same conclusion as to why this person is deceased, then we got it right.
And how long did you do that position for?
2014 is when I started, so 8 years.
Okay. And what kind of training did you undergo for that position?
When I first started, most of it's field. You take basically a 1 week training class. I put myself through different online classes, through different available areas that they would provide to us on different aspects of death investigation. Plus, I also took death investigation classes for my full-time job at the sheriff's office.
Okay. And did you take classes on collecting evidence?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Throughout the years, covers photography, covers collection of samples, both medically and with the sheriff's department, also for evidence purposes. How to process a body, how to process a scene. It's too broad really to get too specific.
Okay. So as a law enforcement officer and not in your position as an OMI investigator, how many major crime scene investigations have you been the lead on?
I would say lead probably 20 or more.
Okay. And how many times have you had to testify in court based on those investigations in which you were the lead on?
Maybe 5 or 6.
Okay. How many crime scene or major crime scene investigations have you assisted on as a law enforcement officer?
Probably over 50. And that includes from, controlling traffic control at the scene to being number 2 on the investigative team.
Okay. So is Sandoval County Sheriff's Office a large law enforcement entity?
I would define it more as a medium. We have, I believe we're budgeted for 60 sworn. I could be wrong about the exact number, but it's approximately there. We run, normally our staffing runs anywhere between 50 and 60 at any given time.
What is a sworn?
There's either they're certified officers or in training and going to be certified officers.
Okay. And in 2020, was the numbers the same or were they higher or lower?
I can't be exact, but I believe they were closer to the 55 versus 60. I know we've got an increase in deputies over the past 2 years.
Okay. So can you tell the jury roughly how many deputies there are on every shift?
In 2020, there was, for the entire county, it averaged, we had a minimum staffing of 4. And normally, so it would run between 4 and 6 on a shift at a time.
Okay. And how many violent crime detectives did you have in 2020?
So in 2020, we didn't really have a violent crime detective per se.
Okay.
We had a detective sergeant, Sergeant Griffin, and then we had 2 other detectives, and they would just switch off on who would take what case, whatever came up. It was more of an on-call type situation.
Okay. So they rotated based on on-call shifts?
Yes.
Where is your main office at?
Right downstairs. So in this building, it's right downstairs on the north side.
Are there any substations?
We don't have substations per se. We're allowed, like in Jemez, we can use their facility if we need to. In Cuba, we can use their facility sometimes, for paperwork, bathroom processing, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So what areas does the Sandoval County Sheriff's Office cover?
It's one of the largest geographic areas in the state that we're required to cover. We go approximately to Counselors, which is about 100 miles from here, up 550 past Cuba, all the way through Jemez to the border of Los Alamos, to Cochiti Lake and Highway 22, Highway 16. We also go to the East Mountain off of Highway 14. We have areas up there, La Madera. And then, of course, we do cover a large portion of Navajo Nation out around the area of Torreon. San Luis, we go all the way through Rio Rancho up until the borders with Albuquerque, and part of Pueblo Sandia is also included.
And Cuba as well? I know I have
Yes.
places there as well.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell the jury about the CAD system, so the computer aided dispatch in 2020?
And the CAD system, which is computer aided dispatch, it's the same system that we have today. The difference was in 2020, we didn't have it in our vehicles. So we didn't have computers in our vehicles, as you see a lot on Cops and so forth, TV shows. We couldn't pull up someone's picture. We couldn't do anything. We didn't have a computer in our vehicle. The CAD system itself at dispatch was still the same CAD system. So they would dispatch calls, take notes, put information in the calls for service, but we just didn't have real-time access. They would have to provide that information over the radio.
So can you tell the jury someone would call in and then someone on the other line would type up a log? Is that how you would call it?
A log's a fair assessment.
And then more information would come in and they would add it to that log
Correct.
for the call.
For the call.
Okay. So how would a deputy get information?
So a deputy, if it was something simple and quick, he would use the radio, and we would just process, they would just communicate with dispatch or other units that way. If it was going to be a long, drawn out conversation, so only one deputy can talk on the radio at a time. So to avoid, for safety reasons, another deputy needed to get on the radio for emergency and he couldn't. If they had cell service, they would call in via telephone to dispatch, but that wasn't necessarily logged or monitored or anything. So it bounced between the two depending on the situation.
And was this like real time that this log was being created, or is there any sort of delay, or can you tell the jury about that?
So when they're getting the information, it's not like it's voice activated and it reads the transmission. A dispatcher actually has to type in whatever information in phrases and use their own, I guess, shorthand, sometimes in a way. So there's an accountability for like misspellings and stuff because they're listening to different avenues of information and trying to put this all in the log. So they could be thinking, processing 2 or 3 different conversations at the same time.
So you testify that Sandia County is a large area of land that you guys have to cover for your
Sandoval
for your
County.
age. Sorry.
That's okay.
And this has a lot of different geographical features: mountains, hills, canyons.
Yes.
How does that affect your radio transmissions?
Oh, absolutely horrible. It can be so bad at times. Deputies can go to certain areas. We call them the dead spots. And if they have to do anything in that area, they have no communication with dispatch or anyone via cell phone or radio. As anybody's been to Jemez through the mountains, you get up there, there's no way to contact people sometimes. So they would have to do law enforcement jobs without any request for backup, without any information. So and these spots are not like just in the mountains. They can be in hilly places, distance, everything. So we have our dead spots that we've identified.
Does this happen in other cases or just this one?
Oh, it happens daily, whether it's a call for service or whether it's a major crime investigation. It doesn't change the geographics.
Okay. What kind of funding does the Sandoval County Sheriff's Office get?
To my knowledge, I'm not really involved too much in the budget issue at my rank. We get most
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Okay, I'll move on. Let's talk about the body camera issue. Okay.
Sure.
So in 2020, did every deputy have a camera?
If one was available.
Okay, tell us about that.
So in 2020, we were using, if possible, a system from a Digital Ally. It's a body camera system. We only had so many. They were common to break down. So we tried to keep our deputies in working ones as we could. And then if one would break, our budget might not allow for them to be repaired. They're quite expensive to repair. Some were beyond repair and we wouldn't replace them. We tried to supplement with digital cassette tape recorders that we would belt tapes, if you'd call them, just to try to give the deputies every opportunity to record their interactions.
Did deputies sometimes have to purchase their own, or did they have that option?
The deputies did have the option to purchase and use their own belt tapes, their own, at that time, the cameras were becoming a little bit more affordable for personal use. So if they wanted to buy their own, they would.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the belt tape thing. How did that work?
So a belt tape's a digital recorder. My use of them is normally if I'm doing field investigations and I'm conducting an interview, I will run that tape to record the interaction. Deputies in the field, if they didn't have a lapel cam and they did have a digital recorder, they would keep it on their belt. And when they came into contact with an individual, they would turn it on and it only captures audio. Of course, it would capture more of what the deputy was saying because it's right here. It's either in the pocket, on the belt, it's with their person versus talking like to Miss Walker, who's a distance away. It's not going to come as clear, but at least it's something.
Okay, so let's talk about the date of this incident, February 29th, 2020. Were you on duty that day?
Actually, I believe I was at home. It was after 5 o'clock and I received a call.
Okay, so what was your role in this investigation?
It started as a lieutenant. It started out as just being able to call out personnel and resources to assist with this investigation. So I contacted Sergeant Griffin. I believe he was also off. Advised him to start his detectives and to handle the scene and call me if he needed me.
So initially then was your role in the investigation more as supervisory because you were in the chain of command to be called?
In the very
assist.
in the initial part.
Yes. And then what eventually became your role?
Eventually became my role due to personnel that I was going to be detective with Sergeant Griffin who had proceeded to the scene because there was no availability of anyone else.
Okay. How many homicide investigations does the Sandoval County Sheriff's Office do in a typical year?
Typically now, it's very spotty, and it's not necessarily homicides that occur in the county. We also attribute it to, if someone, for lack of a better term, leaves a body in the county, we also count that as a homicide investigation. And we'll do maybe an average of 4 or 5. It's just every year is different.
Okay. How many did you do in 2020?
In 2020, for the department,
Yes, for the Sandoval County Sheriff's Office.
I believe we did 4 or 5 counting this one.
Okay. So in this case, you were called to help because you're in the chain of command. Tell us what happened.
At that time, I made the determination that Sergeant Griffin would proceed to the scene, handle the crime scene, and I would remain at being maybe a command post is what you'd call it, which is me in my office, to arrange any logistical help, contact state police for a crime scene if necessary, prepare any warrants that we needed exigency on for like the residents and the property that they were going to, communicate with the district attorney, basically just have a place have a place where I had good internet, good cell phone service, and I could make phone calls because they didn't.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The call comes out. What time was the call received by dispatch?
Can I refer to the CAD just for accuracy's sake?
Yes, sir. If the CAD will refresh your memory.
Thank you.
You want to just leave instead of take this time?
I'm going to lead you by no objection by the defense.
Okay.
So, sir, did the call come into dispatch at about 1731?
Yes.
How is the accuracy of the times on that?
It can be plus or minus minutes because, again, they're logging this in manually. So it could take a minute or two for them to actually put in information, depending on how they're busy.
Okay. And the calling party was Mr. McCullough?
I believe so, yes.
What time did the call from the Bureau of Indian Affairs come in?
I believe the original call was at 5:43 p.m., but it was not logged until 5:49.
Okay. And who made that call?
It was reported by BAA to be a gentleman named Dean Cummings.
Okay. And so the time difference from the call for Mr. McCullough and the call for Mr. Cummings was about 12 minutes?
Approximately.
And Your Honor, at this time, the state would request to publish Exhibit 2, which is the 911 call made from the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
No objection.
Go ahead, Constable. You may publish it. Are you playing it off your laptop there?
I forgot the audio cord. It's
What's the
on
problem?
I have it on.
Oh,
computer logistics.
oh, I see.
There we go.
Sandoval County Police Fire and Rescue. This is Jared. How can I help you?
Hi, this is Cumberland Police Department. Copy dispatch 10-4-1745. Hi, I have a call for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have a male individual, first name of Dean.
Okay.
Cummings?
Do you have a call for me though?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you go with the address first?
Yes, it's going to be 4 miles in on Cabazon Peak.
Okay. Okay, and what have you got?
I have a male individual, Dean Cummings. Phone number 907-831-6512.
Okay.
He said that he was attacked by a male individual, a Guillaume, only first name given.
Can you spell that for me?
First name George, Edward, Ocean, Mary, Edward.
Okay.
He said that he was attacked by this male individual. He tried to defend himself, got a hold of his weapon. He had a gun. He did shoot the individual. He said that the individual is dead.
Okay, we do have a call up already. Let me make sure that these aren't correlated. When did he call you?
He called me at 1743.
And give me the location once more.
Okay, he told me 4 miles in on the Cabazon Peak Monument Trail, the BLM Monument Trail. It's going to be a ranch house, like a ranch. Trailer, there are 2 trailers there. One's a Hallmark trailer, and then there's 2 gates.
Hallmark?
Yeah.
And it should be right near the gate.
Yeah, he said it's going to be, there should be 2 gates there.
What was the name of that trail again?
The Cabazon Peak Trail or Monument Trail access. He said it's a BLM Monument Trail access towards the volcano.
Okay, what was your name again?
Andrea.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
So that call was relayed to Sandoval County Dispatch about 20 minutes after Mr. McCullough's call.
I believe so.
Okay. Tell us how messages between you at the command post here at Sandoval County Sheriff's Office and the people on scene, how were they relayed back and forth?
That was an adventure. Because there was no cell phone service and very limited radio traffic, and I was in my office, I would have to telephone dispatch, have them get on the radio to reach a unit at the scene to drive to an area to give me a call, and back and forth. We couldn't tie up any of the main lines on the radio because local wouldn't reach me here in Albuquerque, so we had to do it via telephone like that. I probably did that. I mean, on CAD, it's documented, I believe, 6 times that I called in, had them call someone, go to some place, call me, and then they would have to go back to the scene, do whatever I needed them to do, and then come back to the area, call me back again. So it took a long time. Every once in a while, if I needed something, I would try a deputy that might have still be at the cell phone location. And so not all the times I did this was related to CAD. It wouldn't go through dispatch. And I can't tell you how many times I tried that.
Okay, so what sheriff's deputies responded to the scene?
Initially at the scene, it was Deputy Hayden Walker.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm only objecting because it's cumulative. We've heard all of this from,
He has not
Different
testified to
officers.
this.
I'll let her continue on.
Thank you, sir. So Deputy Walker
right, buddy,
responded
eh?
to the ranch.
How you
Yes.
doing?
And-
Deputy Honey Estua.
That's my
Yes.
boy right
Sergeant
there.
Crispin.
Yes,
What
that was
up,
the initial
goat?
response.
And on
Not
February
much, just
29th, you never
watching
went
this
to the ranch.
child.
No, I did not.
Okay. You said
Seems
that
a little
you stayed
boring
back at
now.
the office and ran background checks and handled the logistics, right?
Correct.
Were you able, as part of that, to determine
Wonder
what
why
Mr.
he's still
Cummings'
wearing the
height and weight
mask.
was?
Not like it works.
Via his driver's license information, because I'd never seen him. That's what I received my information off of.
Okay, and was he about 5'11" and 165 pounds?
According to his driver's license.
Okay. Now, Mr. Cummings was eventually transported back to the Sandoval County Sheriff's Office, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I got
And
it,
was
buddy.
that, what time was that at?
Gotta try and create a channel.
10 p.m.?
About yes.
Make a living, you know.
Okay. And did Mr. Cummings consent to having his DNA swabs taken and swabs of his face and hands?
Yes.
Can you describe to the jury how DNA swabs are taken from somebody?
For a DNA sample, he's provided usually two sealed Q-tips. He takes it and swirls it around in his mouth for about 30 to 45 seconds. Then it's placed in a small envelope once it's dried, which doesn't take very long, and then in a larger envelope, and then that's all sealed up to collect any other samples.
And then obviously you probably use personal protective gear, gloves, things
absolutely.
like that.
Gloves, and I would just hand him the Q-tip. I wouldn't even do it. You hand it and they do it themselves.
Okay. Who assisted Mr. Cummings with doing these swabs?
I did.
Okay. And
Couldn't agree more, Matt. Couldn't agree
you
more.
also swab his
Helps
hands
out
and
me,
face?
that's for sure.
Yes.
Can you tell us how you did that?
I had a bottle of water similar to this. This is all we had available. And I would take the swab and get it in the water to where it was damp. And I wiped each side of his face and his hands. I believe it was the top and the palms, as I recall.
So, and this was a new bottle of water?
Yes, it was sealed.
Okay. Can you show the jury on your own face where you swabbed Mr. Cummings?
If my normal procedure would be to swab each side, maybe in the forehead, and then the hands, and then the top.
So you did the palms of both of his hands as well as the tops of his hands.
That would be how I normally do it. I can't recall exactly that day, but that's how I would normally process.
And where was this done at?
At the sheriff's office.
When you were swabbing Mr. Cummings or assisting him with swabbing himself, did he have any injuries that were visible to you?
No.
Okay. And then what happened to those swabs?
No
from
injuries,
Mr.
eh?
Cummings?
They were sealed similar to the DNA standard in a small envelope and then in a larger envelope, and they were sealed and then tagged in as evidence.
Okay. And was Mr. Cummings medically cleared at the hospital?
Yes.
Now, the portion of the investigation going on at the scene, what time did that wrap up?
The last CAD report shows, I believe it's Sergeant Griffin coming to the office about 1:33, 1:35, the next day, March 1st.
So is that AM or PM?
PM. And I can't tell you if anybody was left at the scene after that, but according to CAD, that's the last person that left.
Okay. And who collected the evidence from the state police?
Sergeant Griffin.
And that would have been the rifle, the mace, the 11 spent cartridge casings, and the magazine from the stairs, right?
Yes.
This trial so
let's
much
talk about
better
how
than watching the
evidence was
Dale
handled
Brooks trial. I
in
won't
your
lie. I
agency.
mean, the
So
Dale
when
Brooks
evidence
trial
is
was so out
taken
of
from a
control.
scene,
At
what
least this is
happens? Or at least in
back to a
2020.
court
Let's talk
system
about
that's
it then.
being run the right
So
way.
the deputy would come to the station.
Prosecutors and
they would prepare
defense attorneys respected
at the
each
time we were
other.
using a system called UDS.
Don't see that too much after the
Prepare that
Brooks, man. You got to
system.
see it
On
more
that
now.
system, they would
Leak.
enter the stuff as evidence, safekeeping.
Although I'm gonna stream that Brooks
log
trial
it in, create
when
a
I do
evidence
the
report.
closing. I
Then
definitely want to
They would print that.
stream when
We
the
have
families get to
lockers
say
in
their
our
piece.
evidence
They have a
room
lot that they
that
should
are two-way.
get
They
off
would
their
put it in
chest, and
one
that man
locker
needs to
one
hear
way,
it.
shut the door, secure it, and then the evidence tech the next day would come in, open it up, and then process it and store it and confirm the inventory.
So this system you said UDIS, does it give each individual piece of evidence an item number?
Yes, it does. Well,
And-
I'm sorry. It doesn't give us a number. It has a place where we would track our own numbers.
Okay. So this is like a running ledger or report.
Correct.
Does it document who tags something in and what time they tag it in?
Yes.
All right. So would this have been the same process for the evidence Sergeant Griffin collected from the state police?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I?
I don't know if you're still around here, Matt, or not, but make sure you sub, buddy. This is a different account. My main account is still out there. If anybody wants to know, I also do gaming. I have a gaming account on here for YouTube called Park the Goat.
Was this evidence
So,
collected during your investigation in this
If you want to
case?
check that out, just look it up. I play a lot of Fortnite and stuff and some hockey. The name of this account is right where you can see it at the bottom there, World Media Now. That's me. If anybody wants to know what my gamer tag is for my gaming account, it's right here. Park the Goat. Well, on this account, I'm going to do a lot of pretty much everything. So if there's, let's say, media news, like everything. So like overseas media, if there's something like a world event that happens, if there's a court case that's pretty important that people want to follow, I'll make sure to stream that. But it's going to be mostly like trials, whatever news happens, like if there's an event where there's like a war starts, for instance, there's the Ukraine-Russia war. At some point, I plan to maybe start talking about that a little bit online, but I also have to be careful on what I say because, you know, the big boss up there on YouTube don't like certain things to be said. But I'll make sure that I follow all the rules, and also I want to
Let's talk
keep everybody up
about
to date.
um,
But I'll
the
keep it
body
down
of
now
Mr.
since this
Adiola.
lady's back to
OMI
chatting.
collected the body from the scene, correct?
Correct.
Typically, tell us how a body is processed for evidence by OMI.
So a field investigator is going to go to the scene, photograph the entire area. They're going to photograph the body. They're going to photograph weapons or drugs or anything they find on scene.
Let me be more specific.
Oh,
Tell us about how, like, the hands are bagged and the fingernail clippings, and how
Oh.
is that kind of evidence collected from a decedent?
Gotcha. When he's preparing the body for transport, some deputies, depending on the nature of the decedent, will bag their hands. I cannot testify if his hands were bagged at this time, but that would be a normal procedure that I would do. He's then placed in a body bag and sealed with a tag, and then transport would take them down to OMI in Albuquerque.
Okay. And then at OMI in Albuquerque, do they then do the clippings, and what do they do with the body in Albuquerque?
So what I've witnessed and been part of is normally, and I can't quote from their exact
Mhm.
SOP because that's a different division at FERC, but they would, when it's time for autopsy, they would bring it in, do photos, clothe, they would unclothe them, go through the clothing, secure any items that were found in the clothing. Once the decedent was not wearing any clothes, they would do more photographs. Then they would do fingernail clippings and tag those in. Also, I believe they do DNA at that time. And then they would proceed with the autopsy. I can't say if that's their SOP. I'm just going by what I've witnessed before.
Okay, so that's how they would have gotten Mr. Adiola's DNA standard.
I believe so.
Does somebody go pick up this evidence from OMI, or how does it get to your facility?
More times than not, they will send it to me via mail.
Yeah, you see
Depending
everybody.
on,
So you
you know,
see
I
this
have
account
gone
here
down there
says
to actually
Matthew,
pick up
bro. Make sure you go
evidence from
check
time
out
to
his
time,
channel
but
too.
for the most
He
part,
doesn't
the scene.
have a lot of content, but make
And
sure
then
you
how does it
check
get
him
to
out.
the lab?
Give him a like and a sub.
I go through the big box. It usually comes in a big box or an envelope. I open that up, confirm all the items match the list, the packing list that they gave us. And then I process the evidence as if I had collected it as seen, inventory it on, at that time, UDS, create an evidence report, and then place it in the locker for evidence tech to process.
And that would be your evidence tech then just takes it to the lab and picks it up from the lab?
Yes.
Okay, and then it goes back into evidence.
Yes.
As part of your investigation, did you determine who was the owner of the AR-15?
Yes.
Who was the owner?
Dean Cummings.
Okay, now on March 1st,
Uh-oh, big bad
did you
AR-15,
also
is
have
it?
contact with other
Uh-oh.
witnesses? Did you do any follow-up interviews?
Sounds scary.
I'm sure I did.
I was glad she didn't say, assault
My
rifle,
recollection, I mean, through this
because that's not
investigation,
what
I
it's
can say
called.
specifically March
It's actually
1st,
called
the
an
investigation,
armament.
I spoke with Mr. Cummings'
But
dad
whatever.
via telephone.
Okay.
I've interviewed Miss Landers.
Okay.
I did on March 1st, I did do the death notification.
Okay.
And through the whole investigation, it's very difficult for me to remember that far
Okay.
back
Okay.
without recollection.
So you interviewed Miss Landers on March 6th, 2020?
Yes.
A couple of days after.
Yes.
Okay. And did you collect anything from Miss Landers?
I believe I collected a real estate contract.
Okay. And then as case agent, do all of the different things you sent out for testing then subsequently come back to you?
Yes.
All of the reports?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever requested nitrate lab testing on an item of evidence?
No, I To be honest, I don't even know what that is.
Okay. Have you ever requested ejection pattern testing on an item of evidence?
Not in a case that I've worked.
Does the state lab even do that?
I don't believe so.
And are you familiar with mace, sir?
Yes,
How many times have you yourself been sprayed with mace?
over 10 times.
Is this one of the less than lethal weapons used by law enforcement?
Oh, yes. It's classified as a defensive deterrent, not a offensive.
Have you been present when mace has been deployed
Yes,
on other persons or?
yes.
Okay. How many times?
For total, well over 20.
In your
In my-
27 years or so?
Yes, yes.
What does it smell like?
The easiest way I can explain is if anybody's tried to peel roasted chili at home and you sit there for an hour and your eyes swell up and it gets in your face and you can't breathe, multiply that by about 10. And then that's like a
You don't
direct
need to look
spray
at the
from-
jury, but
from,
trust me, they're not going to believe you even more just
it
because you're
swells
looking
your
at them.
eyes, it swells your eyes shut most of the time. It's a very
It's just like in the Rittenhouse with that gauge. He would like literally every time they'd ask him a question.
How long
Yes,
does
yes,
those
yes,
effects
yes.
usually last?
Like
From my experience only,
Yes, sir.
Objection relevance.
like a freaking
I'll
robot.
let him, with his. with
So it's
respect
the
to
guy
the-
that did it, eh?
I'll let him answer that.
He almost looks like the pig farmer.
the times I've been sprayed,
Oink, oink, oink.
it's
Wonder what
lasted
ever happened to
anywhere
him.
from an hour. As far as the real where I didn't feel I could go home safe, an hour to all day. You feel it for a few days.
And in your experience, does this get on clothing, bed sheets, anything in the area?
Yes, yes. It was very common for me to get told to change in the garage on instances like that.
Okay. Are you familiar with commercial mace that's sold to the public?
In a way, I provided it, to family members and suggested they get some for travel and safety.
Okay. And does it work typically the same way for defense?
Objection foundation.
Sustained.
In your experience with commercial mace, does it sometimes contain a dye?
Yes.
Objection foundation.
Overruled.
Yes, it does.
Why is that?
That's primarily to help law enforcement identify attackers, kind of like the bank bags that have the exploding dye packs. This is along those lines.
And in your experience, either you yourself being maced or other people being maced or you purchasing mace for family members like you stated, does an excess drip out of the can?
There you
Yes,
go.
like you would a spray paint can or a hairspray. There's always some left on the nozzle or dripping down the side on your fingers.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
No, I'm good.
I've handed you State's Exhibit 30. That was the can of mace that was previously admitted, sir. Can you please pull it out? And describe to the jury, is this the typical can of mace that you have purchased for family members or seen commercially sold in stores?
Yes.
Can you tell us what your observations are on that?
It's black. It's small.
Oh, very smart.
Looks
Those
around
glasses are
the
working
nozzle
for you, I
into
see.
where, like dirt, like it's kind of crudded up a little bit. There's a kind of like a reddish orange.
What's the point of the glasses if
Some
you're
of the
going to look
stuff
past
that's
them?
around.
Okay.
To me, it looks old.
Old?
Yes.
Does it appear that there's a dye in this one?
Objection foundation.
Sustained.
Detective, let's move on. I only have a couple more questions. Have you ever tripped and fallen to the ground before?
Yes.
Have you seen other people trip and fall?
Yes.
Okay. Have you witnessed people fall, or when you've seen other people fall or you yourself have fallen, what is everyone's first reaction?
Not only through personal experience and witnessing, but also through.
What would be the
time,
point of
trying to
this?
Determine if a person fell,
Everybody falls.
prior to death.
Is that what you're trying to
Most
imply?
people,
Well, no
you
shit.
react to the direction that you're falling. The first thing you do is you brace yourself and you open your hands and you're just straight out, just trying to stop.
Okay. And Lieutenant Tomlinson, have you had the occasion to see mace with red dye before?
Yes.
Does that one, Exhibit 30, look similar?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor. All this stuff.
Constable, approach the bench. Ms. Walker, approach the bench.
Lieutenant, how are you?
Good. Thank
Did the
you.
mace have dye in it or not?
It could.
No, that's not my question. Did the mace have dye in it or not?
I believe it did.
Wow, why's she
How
coming
do
at
you
him
know
like
that?
that?
Did you spray it?
No, I did not.
Did you have it tested?
No, ma'am.
Are you speculating? You're guessing, right?
No, I'm.
Wow, what is she so
based on,
angry for?
You know,
Relax.
previous knowledge. It looks to me like it was a
Holy
can of
shit.
mace that's sold.
He's like, I'm gonna eat your soul.
It has mace or it has dye.
What are you basing that on?
Jesus, here, have a drink. Come on. Yeah.
The redness around the tip of the. Can I show you?
I don't need you to show me.
Okay.
In a
Why not?
murder
You
trial,
asked.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the mace have dye in it or not?
I
Wow.
believe it did.
The judge should say something.
I don't know
She's
that
so
for sure
angry.
because you didn't bother to just spray it, right?
No, ma'am.
You couldn't just spray it to see if it had dye in it.
No, ma'am.
And you didn't send it anywhere to be tested.
No, ma'am.
Okay, how about this? This wouldn't be too hard. How about just contact the manufacturer and say, here's a picture of the mace can that I have. Can you tell me whether or not this model contains? Did you do that?
No, ma'am.
All right.
Damn. She's on his ass, huh? What's going on here?
On February 2020, did you look at that mace canister?
I don't believe I did.
So
I mean, maybe through pictures. I probably did through pictures. I don't recall exactly.
So this guy didn't do his job.
when was the first time that you looked at that mace can in person? Was it when trial started?
I don't recall.
What's so important about this
Well,
mace
if it's
can,
in
though?
evidence and you go and you open it to look at it, there's a record of that, right?
Yes.
Is it written on the envelope?
Good question. It's not very happy there, but I see why.
The dates are all, I believe, 2022.
Are any of them you?
I don't believe so.
So the answer is no.
I would have opened it with a text, so I can't say whether I did or whether I didn't prior to this.
So if you open it with a tech, you don't have to put your name and the date on the envelope?
No, ma'am, she would.
Okay.
So I would return it to her to close it back up for me.
So what are the dates in 2022 that it was looked at?
So I have 10/31,
Of 2022?
4 of 20, which is probably when I sent it to the lab to get tested because I don't recognize the
Wow.
issues.
Not doing your job, bud.
20, 2022.
Come on,
I
dude.
can't tell the other date. It's covered up.
October 31st. Was that you? Can you remember that far ago?
Wow,
I
that's
believe it
weird.
says it was defense that opened it.
It was the defense attorneys. And the one in
believe so.
April you think was when it was sent to the lab?
I have
uh,
that's when I believe it was sent to the lab.
Yeah, the one in April.
Yes, and then there's one from DPS from 1/27 of 21.
And that can't be you because you're not DPS.
Correct.
So based on the dates that you've just read, none of those could possibly have been you.
Correct.
All right.
yeah, but
Now, it's my understanding that you were in the presence of Mr. Cummings for approximately 6 hours on or about the 29th and the 1st.
Yes.
And did you run a lapel camera?
No, we were.
Okay. Did you run a belt recorder?
No. To my knowledge, no.
did you run anything?
You testified before the grand jury in this case, didn't you?
I don't recall.
Would it refresh your memory if you saw a transcript of the grand jury proceeding?
Possibly, but I don't recall going to grand jury at all.
And my question for you is, would it refresh your memory if you saw a transcript of who testified at the grand jury?
We can try. I don't know.
May I approach?
You may.
Lieutenant, have a look at that and tell me if that refreshes your memory as to whether or not you testified at grand jury.
You may. Hold on.
Lieutenant, did that refresh your memory?
I still have no recollection of the jury, but I trust the transcript.
Well, and listen, you agree with me that generally speaking, in a more substantive case, like a homicide case, it's typically the lead case agent who testifies at grand jury. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
And you're the lead case agent in this case.
I agree.
Okay. Now, I understand that this was 2.5 years ago.
Yes.
So, and I want to be fair to you, and I mean that. So we can go through the transcript, or we can just break and you can review the audio recording of the grand jury, because obviously the audio recording is you could actually hear the sound of your own voice.
Sure.
So if you prefer to do that, I'm happy to do that. I don't want you to feel like I'm pushing a transcript in
No.
front of you that may not be accurate.
Sure. May I answer?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever
No,
you'd like to do.
I would be happy to explain to you and the court why.
No, we
but
don't need an
it's-
explanation. We
right.
just want to take your testimony.
Sure.
So would you like to go ahead and move through the transcript with me, or do you think it would be better if we took a break and you could hear the audio? Sir.
We can go through the transcript together. I'm just letting you know that I do trust the transcript. I
Okay.
have no issues with that. I'm just being honest with the court that I physically do not remember appearing at grand jury.
I understand.
That's all I'm saying.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to beat you up for that.
Right.
I understand police officers.
She doesn't want to beat him up for it, but she's doing that all
Human
right.
beings, there's a lot of things that go on. They have a lot of different cases, and it's hard to remember something from 2.5 years ago. Okay? So if at any point we're looking at the transcript and you feel like perhaps the transcript is incorrect, let me know and we can take a break and listen to the audio.
Very good.
Okay? Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Very good.
All right, thank you. And I understand that you probably are not going to recall the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it on the off chance that you do.
Of course.
Prior to giving your testimony before the grand jury, do you know if you met with anyone from your investigative team?
I'm sure that I met with Sergeant Griffin, obviously, because he was at the scene. I do know that the two other detectives did, after the fact, assist us with parts of the investigation. So if that answers your question,
You're sure that you met with Griffin?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
but it sounds like you're not sure whether you met with the other two.
No, I do know. I met with the other two in other aspects of it. So
Prior to,
Prior
did you
to
meet
grand
with,
jury.
okay, you met with them prior to grand jury?
yes,
Okay, great. Who are those detectives?
Sergeant Griffin, Detective Miller, and Detective Salas.
Were all of those detectives out at the scene?
No.
Okay. Was it only Griffin that was out at the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'm going to ask you this, and then we're going to have to go through a memory refreshment.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to leave that transcript in front of you
Very good.
for your convenience. When you testified at the grand jury, of course, you testified about Mr. Cummings withholding his name and identification.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Well, when you testified at grand jury, of course, you would have testified about the crime of concealing identity.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's, the allegation is that Mr. Cummings failed to provide his name and identifiers, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you testified before the grand jury, isn't it true that you said they Mirandized him, he refused to answer. And if you don't recall, I'll point you.
I trust you. If it's in here, if it's in the transcript, then I have no doubt that I testified to that in grand jury.
Okay, so as we have heard, he was not Mirandized. And so I'm just wondering, if he wasn't Mirandized, why would you have told the grand jury that he was?
What page are we on?
Page 6. It's like the second sentence that he testifies to.
Okay, people, I'm going to go and start getting ready to stream the rest of the Emergency Act inquiry, the
Regarding
last
this
half of it.
case,
So if you guys are interested in that, I'll come back to this
probably
trial.
provided that information, which
I'm
subsequently
not too fond of it, but
changed.
I'm going to try and stick
I
around for
wasn't
it.
at the scene
See
that it was
who wants to
describing,
check it out.
so
But yeah,
possibly
I
was
just wanted to
information
say
coming
that. If you
from
like this,
one of the
please
deputies at
like
the
and
scene.
subscribe. It would really mean a lot.
And then they changed their
Peace out.
information later on.
Okay, fair.